This is Score the Podcast, presented by Vienna Symphonic Library. What a setting, what a movie. Our guest today, Daniel Lopatin, a.k.a. Oneohtrix Point Never, a.k.a. OPN. He's got a new album out, Tranquilizer, as well as he's a composer for many great films, the Safdie brothers films, Uncut Gems, Good Time, and the new Marty Supreme. He's also a record producer, songwriter. You would know his stuff from The Weeknd and so much more. Daniel, thank you for joining us here in beautiful West Hollywood, here at A24.
Yeah, big relief from East Coast weather.
And we're getting a nice sunset right as we start. So this nice slash on your face, I'm sure will go away.
Very beautiful.
But we had the privilege of seeing the film last night, a Q&A with you and Josh Safdie, the director, which the film is so great. It's out now, Marty Supreme. Be sure to go check it out. The music, Timothee Chalamet's performance. I mean,
you're going to get this a lot, obviously, but a movie about ping pong being as important as it actually ends up being, you're like, how can this possibly be that great of a movie? And you walk out of it being like, damn, this is a great movie.
Because it's sort of about, the thing I realized the first time I read the script was that it's about birth on all these different levels. And one of the birth, sort of the modes of birth in the movie is the birth of a new sport. So that's where the ping pong aspect sort of plays in, but it's about all these other kind of forms of birth, this like birth of this young man kind of coming into himself, and a literal birth, and there's just all these layers, and ping pong is just really one of them. So, and I think people will understand that very quickly.
Well, one of the things about your career leading up to this, which we'll get into a little bit in a second, is it's described as experimental, and like a lot of those words of like, it's kind of ethereal, and it's kind of, like, what exactly is it? But cohesiveness is something where a lot of people would say, like, it's so varied. So like, where's the cohesion behind some of your earlier music? This film feels like it has a very cohesive, start to finish. Like, there is a journey there. And I'm curious, because I know that's a common thing that you've come across in the past, is like finding that cohesion, but also having room to explore and room to go somewhere a little bit different and unexpected, and all of that. So how did you wrestle with those two ideas?
How do we put so many different kind of pieces together? Well, I think the most important and striking thing that happened in the sort of research process for Marty was closing my eyes and listening to the film as it was. This wasn't the final edit, but they were getting there. And it was a spotting session, and kind of closed my eyes and listened to what they had there. And I kind of got into the essence of the movie that way, which was like, okay, the sport itself is about this extremely lightweight ball, this like flying around, this kind of buoyancy that I connected to Marty Mauser, and that he has this lightness and this a buoyancy to him really told me what I needed to do instrumentally, which was, quick, short, transient sounds that kind of propel you forward. But I'm not a percussionist. I'm basically just write melodies with my right hand, play some chords with my left, and that's how everything happens. So going towards mallets and bell sounds and ways to sort of coax out rhythm out of melodic instruments was a really logical progression. But there were these other sort of not competing but contending ideas. Josh really wanted a sort of neoclassical element to the score. He just kind of intuited that, and it really helped for me to imagine that this kind of sonic world of Marty Supreme was one where like Marty Mauser is this kind of futuristic entity, and the music of the 1980s is sort of says what Marty kind of feels, and that the kind of neoclassical aspects, the flutes, the choirs, the orchestra, all of that's like a kind of a labyrinthine contrapuntal maze that Marty has to traverse, and it's got that kind of, it's got tradition, it's got the flavor of sort of the old world that and not always in a very nice or good way. It's the world of limitation set on him, and the kind of the opulence of Fifth Avenue and the Rockwell aspect of the the story and K and all of that kind of stuff. So these contrasting elements kind of in concert with one another, but also, you know, creating a kind of plinth for this character to drive through with his message, which primarily is this kind of digital synth sounds, a lot of mallets.
This is Daniel Lopatin on Score the Podcast.
Score the Podcast, the only show taking you inside the studios of the world's most celebrated composers and musical storytellers. Presented by Vienna Symphonic Library. Here are your hosts, Kenny Holmes and Matt Schrader.
What's up, guys? I'm Kenny Holmes.
I'm Matt Schrader.
This is Score the Podcast, presented by Vienna Symphonic Library. More with Daniel Lopatin in just a second. And speaking of Vienna, some of the choir in Marty Supreme was recorded at the Synchron stage, which is really cool. And we want to tell you about a new package that they have. It's actually in addition to their Duality Strings package. This is Synchron Duality Strings Ostinato.
Yes, we've told you about Duality Strings before. Ostinato is the next evolution of that. It's the most flexible ostinato library that has ever been put together to really drive momentum, create tension. Don't have to sound repetitive. There's a million ways that this allows you to really refine your craft. And you get the iconic sound of that stage, that same Vienna stage. Or you can mix with a much drier sound at the same time. That's what Duality refers to.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really cool thing. FlowView also makes it really intuitive and effortless for beginners to get their hands on this and really refine the sound. All of this, you can check out the demos and a lot more at vsl.co.at.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, if you watch the show often, there's those demos available. It's super easy to use. I am not a composer. I'm interested in all of this world, but I can use these things. So if you're curious about their packages,
so can you.
It's super intuitive. The user interface is very easy to use. Go to that website, vsl.co.at. Before you buy it, you can try it. There's demos. Check them out. And let us know what you think. Tag us on social, at Score Movie on Instagram, at Score the Podcast on Twitter and TikTok, and all the rest of them. I think we're ready to get back into the interview with Daniel Lopatin. Let's do it. So obviously we want to dive a lot more deeper into Marty Supreme, but for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with, you know, some of your artist work, some of your background, we always like to kind of take everyone back a little bit to how you were brought up, what musical inspirations you might have had, whether it's your parents or people that you listen to. Was it a musical household growing up, and where did you grow up?
I grew up in the suburbs of Boston, originally kind of East Boston area. My parents immigrated from the then Soviet Union, where my dad was primarily, I mean, he was just working they tell you where to work. They don't really ask you what you want to do. Yep. So he's kind of a very intelligent guy that was just kind of like, here, work at the shoe factory. And one of the many reasons I connected with this story was this kind of like, there's your internal drive, and then there's the world that kind of sets these sort of limits. And I recognize that in all these different aspects of my life and their life. But anyway, that was my dad. My mom was a musicologist and kind of conservatory trained.
Okay. Wow.
Piano player in the old country. Of course, when they moved here in '82, my mom was pregnant with me. When they kind of shuffled off and left the Soviet Union. They had to kind of sneak out, as a lot of people did back then. When they got here, it wasn't time for music anymore. And it was kind of the boom, the computer boom in the early 80s, and there were signs everywhere, learn C++, learn COBOL, all these computer languages. And my mom wrapped her head around that stuff because it was so similar to musical notation for her. Mm-hmm. And these are symbols in sort of in the place of an idea. And so she became a kind of a software programmer, and still taught some piano on the side. And my dad was finally able to kind of show his strengths as a computer engineer. And they were struggling, but they were kind of on the road to something, and music was a fun thing on the side. My dad would play in these Russian restaurant kind of rock bands for a little extra scratch. and my mom taught piano on the weekends. But it was really
She
really.
teach you piano?
She tried. Yeah, I mean, I was.
It never took.
I was a brat. I took a little bit. I picked up a little bit about harmony. I got as far as maybe Mozart's minuets. I struggled with the bass clef, but G clef not a problem, not too bad. I should have played saxophone or something like that. But I loved piano, and I especially loved my dad's keyboard. But I don't think I understood it at the time, but via osmosis, hearing my mom play Chopin in the house all the time, and it helped.
Yep.
And being able to, ask her questions over the years also helped, and we still do. I mean, Josh Safdie and I are actually run into these things in the studio. Sometimes we're like, let's just call your mom and ask her what to do.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
That's so interesting, though, because I'm hearing your mom is a software engineer and classically trained musician, and your dad's in a band. This is like you formed of all three of those aspects.
Precisely. It's incredible to think about, but this idea of having computers in the house when I was a kid being as important as those other instruments, and how that all kind of came together in my own music and Oneohtrix Point Never it's pretty telling. And I was just really lucky for that. We had remember Steve Jobs had left Apple, and he formed this company called Next, made this big black terminal computer that was basically his next project. And for whatever reason, we ended up with one of those Next computers in our house. That was the first time I got on the internet. And I remember opening up the web browser, which was called Gopher, and somehow finding, I don't know if it was sort of some proto MP3 format, and I got Cotton Eye Joe downloaded, like a 30-second clip. And that was my first experience of hearing music on the internet, but it was perfect actually, because it's of course I heard a really bad piece of music on the internet at a formative age. That's kind of in a way what OPN is.
It's hooky though.
It is hooky.
Yeah, that you can't get that song out of your head when you hear it.
Now, Oneohtrix Point Never, I've read a few things about the origin of that, how you ended up adopting that as a moniker for your artist career. What's the real story?
The real story is that I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and we were listening. I'm pretty sure we were listening to Steve Hillage really loud enough where the conversation we were having wasn't really totally coherent. And I was talking to him about Boston or something like that. And this old radio station came up. I was trying to describe to him listening to soft rock at the dentist office. They used to play, like Phil Collins and stuff like that while they're drilling your teeth or cleaning. So it's this combination of and then the smoothest music from the 80s. It's pretty much what OPN is. But either I misheard or he misheard Magic Oneohtrix Point Never in the place of Magic 106.7, Boston's continuous soft rock. And hey, the rest is more or less history. But I was just messing around, honestly. I didn't think anyone would care, or else I would have picked a much better band name.
Yeah.
But I was making a MySpace account, and I thought it was funny. So
early on, did you have any influences from film music or film composers? Do you remember films that you think formed a little bit of your early, musical interest?
If I think about the tapes that I actually went out and bought, meaning videotapes, these would have more needle drops and score on them because it was the 90s.
Yep.
And that stuff was really formative. It was Leanne Hate, the movie, the Matthew Kasovitz film, with tons of French hip hop on there, but also American stuff. It was Reservoir Dogs. It was Clockwork Orange, Wendy Carlos, and other stuff like that. And I think there was a lot of the way that I picked up on film music was sort of in a kind of altered state of consciousness, watching television all the time. I think it was more TV than anything else. It was a lot of X-Files, a lot of Deep Space Nine. There was a movie that we used to watch in my family religiously called White Nights, which was a kind of a Cold War era movie, a dance movie with Gregory Hines and Mikhail Baryshnikov. And there was a Lou Reed song called Love is Chemical that was like a song, I think it was written for that film, but it was like a really synth poppy Lou Reed song. The first time I heard kind of drum machines and synths that way in a movie. So there's things along the way that have definitely influenced me. Then, of course, later, when I got a little bit deeper into film, it was Carter Burwell. Mm-hmm. It was Raising Arizona and Blood Simple. I was just obsessed with those movies. And it's funny to sort of weight one thing versus another. The more I think about it, the more other things flood my consciousness. But yeah.
So OPN, you're making experimental music. I know that you became kind of an internet darling for underground electronic music. And can you explain a little bit about this vaporwave thing? Some credit you as being the creator of this.
Yeah, it was an unintentional thing. I mean, I'll gladly take credit for creating anything. It's great. It's just great for survival in music. But I essentially didn't really have anything to do with vaporwave directly. I was just kind of, I would say, part of a milieu of artists in the late O's, early 10s that were kind of coming up in the underground noise scene, which was, a very niche thing. But it was kind of a community of people that were thinking a lot about texture and improvising with electronic textures, less so about melody. And it was pretty harsh, a lot of it. The music was harsh. And then there was a few of us that kind of came in, a little younger generation into that scene, that were coming in with a whole different sort of reference point, but really enjoying this sort of formal aspect of noise and improvising with electronics and stuff like that. But we were really into like 80s music, basically. And there was, I can't make any generalizations, but I can say for myself, I liked the sort of texture of clean, super saccharine, really, really digital music of any kind. I liked elevator music. I liked background music. I liked the stuff that is basically, on the long tail part of culture, the stuff that you just kind of ingest quickly and throw away. The long and short of it is I have a desk job. I'm in Boston. Hate my job.
Doing what?
It's a publishing company and I'm doing nothing. Okay. So I'm sitting there waiting. It's like Office Space. Yeah. I'm just sitting there waiting to be told like, hey, so what is my job?
What exactly do you do here?
Yeah, it was that. And so, and I remember I was constantly, there was kind of a dress code, like tuck your shirt in. And no matter how hard I tried, my shirt would always come untucked. And I was like, I can't do this. And so I downloaded some freeware on my computer. It was a Canadian audio editor program called Goldwave, and it still exists. And a sort of multi-tracker called Multiquence. So it was like a little suite of free tools. And I started basically chopping and screwing soft rock, is the long and short of it. Now, is that really an original move? Not really. So like you have...
Maybe with that genre.
Yeah, I think it was my suburban version of something that was going on, that you could look at Swisher House and stuff in Texas. You could think of it as plunderphonics in the sort of kind of fine art realm, or all the weird stuff that like acts like Negative Land were doing. You could think of it as the ready-made in fine arts. You could think of it as a kind of a Dadaist thing. You could. Sure. There's a long and interesting tradition of this kind of thing across many mediums, but the way I did it somehow seeped into the consciousness. It was a track by Krista Berg called Lady in Red that I kind of isolated a little sliver of and turned it into almost like a mantra just on the lyric, "Nobody Here." And I made a little video, popped it up on YouTube, and it was really just out of boredom and sort of the malaise of being at this dead-end job. And a writer in the UK named David Keenan, who had an amazing record shop in Glasgow called Volcanic Tongue that carried me and my friends' records on consignment. There's CDRs we were making. He was writing about our whole scene, and he wrote an essay for Wire magazine and basically defined it as hypnagogic pop. And we don't have to go into all the details, but he essentially was like, here's this thing that people are doing, and described what it was that I did with my Lady in Red thing, and people kind of caught on to it. And a little bit later, a generation later, a lot of I think a lot of young kids that were interested in making music, basically bedroom electronic music, sort of refined that and into more of a genre and called it vaporwave. I kind of understand what they're talking about, and I've heard some of it, and I can appreciate it. But for me, it was a very internal, very private practice of trying to kind of take back things that I thought were kind of cheesy or corny, but had some sort of glimmer of beauty in them, and try to make them better. And I'm very, very happy that it became a kind of folk practice. I mean, I can't think of a better result, but I never intentionally tried to pioneer anything.
It's very much a hip hop type thing that you were doing, but it wasn't hip hop. So it's just so fascinating to hear about that. When you transitioned into doing your first film score, it was Sofia Coppola's film, is that right?
Yeah.
Quickly, how did that connection happen?
So that was another real stroke of luck. I'd put out a record called Replica, which was in the vein of those type of kind of vaporwavy things, or whatever we want to call it. It was a record made of...
That was the biggest one you'd done to date, I think, right?
It was like, I kind of reached... I was making these records that were kind of ambient records, and I reached a kind of pivot, stylistic pivot. I really wanted to go somewhere else. There were some labels that were kind of interested in me, and I went with this label called Mexican Summer because they were in my backyard at the time in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and had a studio. And so that studio was my sole obsession. It's just how I figured out how to be a producer, was them basically saying, come on in anytime you want.
Yeah.
So I make Replica there, and Replica is a kind of if you take the Eccojams thing, the Christaberg thing, and you expand on it, almost like a progressive version of the Eccojams. That's Replica, and Brian Reitzel hears it. And Brian Reitzel is, Sofia Coppola's right-hand man for all of her scores and music supervision at her needle drops and everything. And he's like, I heard your record and I hear something in it. Why don't you come out here and just kind of shadow me a little bit and see if you like scoring films, because I think you might be good at it. And I got on a plane and I hung out in his studio for days, and then those days turned into a week or two.
Was there any...
None.
You just said, I'm
yes.
down. You weren't like, I don't know if this is for me, or this is not the right type of thing that I want to be doing, making music for someone else's work.
I have that Marty Mauser in me. I think it's just this kind of like, here's another thing that I don't really know about, but I know that if I just open myself up to it, if it has to do with music and it has to do with the craft of music, I'm there. And it's just that kind of experimental aspect of my imagination. So it just sounded exciting. And of course, I loved Lost in Translation and Virgin Suicides. He was such a big part of that. I mean, he kind of, in a way, reinvented soft rock himself, because on Virgin Suicides, Todd Rundgren, the use of Todd Rundgren on that soundtrack is like, he made Todd Rundgren really cool. Mm-hmm. And it was just fun. I wanted to meet him. And he was a guy from a band background, or, he'd been in Red Cross. He's a punk rocker, and just a guy I wanted to spend time with, period, and just rack his brains.
And that must have been an eye-opening, kind of life-changing moment to be a part of that process and start, because you weren't really collaborating musically with anyone until then.
I wasn't even scoring Bling Ring. I was there basically just hanging out, and he would just throw challenges at me. Like, at the time, he was working on this short-lived TV show called Boss with Kelsey Grammer.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like, here, score a scene. Just do it. And I'm like, well, what do I do? He's like, figure it out. I was like, very Mr. Miyagi. And I'm very grateful for him for that. And then he said, look, Sofia's got a new movie. I don't know if there's a lot of score in it, but I played her your music, and she said it sounded like perfume. So
that's an interesting description.
It blew my mind. And so we kind of basically just pitched for those cues. It wasn't necessary. She was curious about a score, but she wasn't really that, dead set on it. And we wrote some music, and it made its way into the film.
Amazing.
We made a documentary called Score some time ago now, 8 years ago. And one of my memories of me leaving my job to go pursue making that film, the first thing that I did coming back to LA was I went out to Vegas to a Nine Inch Nails. I think it was the very first concert with Soundgarden that they did on that tour. I understand you were involved in at least part of that tour, if not the whole thing. How did that come about? What were you doing?
This is a great question. So, all right, Trent, if you're out there, I know you are. I'm going to tell a little story. Trent is going out on tour with his new record at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Hesitation Marks. Maybe it was right before.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
sounds right.
Something
Yeah.
like that. So, of course, I love Nine Inch Nails. When you get a call like that, you drop everything. So I have no idea what I was doing, but it was not as important as opening up for Nine Inch Nails. Originally, Death Grips was slated to be the opener. Something happened there. And Trent called me. Now, he gets on the phone and he's like, here's the catch, man. There's another band on this tour, Soundgarden. And you're there because I want to screw with the audience. And you're basically going to go out there and open for them. And in a way, that's going to be really hard. Do you accept the challenge or not? Because I think it'd be really fun, and I want somebody from my team. I want Soundgarden to be in the sandwich between OPN. And, it's typical Trent. And I said, yeah, of course I'm down. Just have one question. Can I I think I kind of want to do a little bit of a noise set. I want to be a little bit more brutal than. Because I work that way. I'm just kind of like a sponge. If Trent's calling me, I'm putting on my sort of industrial music hat, just for fun. And he was like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. You're playing to whoever the slowly dripping in crowd is Soundgarden. And I love those guys and made friends with all of them. And of course, Chris passed away, which was horrifying and sad. But nonetheless, the experience was amazing. Not only because it was my first time kind of getting thrown in the lines into these amphitheaters and actually doing music that was far more aggressive than what I was kind of doing around that time, and pivoting, which led to a record of mine called Garden of Delete, which was directly inspired by the whole experience, but also because I got to spend time with Trent. And he was getting he was really sinking his teeth into his film score work at around that time. And he encouraged me as well. And that was invaluable.
What is it like going out to screw with the audience? And there must have been some reactions from audiences that were very confused, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, I would hope that I would screw with them. Really, they were like, "What is this shit?" And maybe some confusion, maybe some "This is terrible. Please make it stop." But also a lot of people dug it, and I remember. Matt Cameron was on that tour, and that was amazing. Hanging out with him and Kim Thale, but I'd see Chris every day, and because I'd be leaving soundcheck when they'd be going on, or vice versa, or something like that, and I'd be bringing all my my mixer and my keyboard and all this stuff in a backpack, in a luggage, wheeling it onto these huge stages, and Chris would always just be like, "What are you doing? Are you going somewhere? Like, what's going on?" And after a while, he kind of started picking up on the vibe, and it was so sweet and so curious, and it was just incredible hanging out with those, real like childhood heroes, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move ahead to meeting the Safdies.
And that's exactly when I met them, right after
Really?
that. Yeah.
Was it
go ahead.
related to the concert, or what was the connection? Was it Josh first?
It was Josh, and it was at a concert for the Garden of Delete record in Brooklyn somewhere. And a piece of music from that tour that I called Connor after John Connor, because I'm obsessed with Brad Fiedel and the soundtrack.
That's
I'm
awesome,
just
yeah.
obsessed with Brad Fiedel. Made it into Good Time in this really roundabout way. This piece of music I'd written only for the Nine Inch Nails tour actually sort of drives Connie's character towards the end of Good Time. So Connor became Connie, and it was all kismet. But I think the long and short of it is Josh and I were both in and around New York City at around the same time in this kind of experimental milieu, but in different mediums. And he was busy making his films, which were very gritty and very intense. And I was doing the same in music, and we had a lot of mutual respect for each other. He came to one of my shows, invited me over to his Midtown offices, which at the time were on the 1100th floor of some no-name building.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in there, I immediately clock the gigantic King of New York poster on the wall. Right next to it is an Akira poster. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I get it. I just get it. And I think he more or less got me too. And we have it's just amazing. I've been reflecting on it a lot recently because of the new film, but we've been working together for over 10 years, and we kind of taught each other on some level how we want to score things. And we didn't really know. I mean, I always joke around like we love scores, but not that much. We love our scores.
Yep.
And we were always more interested in sort of like kind of borrowing and misusing, sort of idiomatically, like misusing stuff. Mm-hmm. Where does New Age come into the story of a small-time crook? We know why, and it was the beginning of our sort of universe building. And over time, time is a magic ingredient that brings a composer and a director into close contact with really, really soulful work. And it's not something that I could have anticipated. But over the course of many years of knowing him, there's a kind of it's almost like a spiritual process that we undergo. It's like he's made this thing, it's taken years. And then there's this one final phase where he really gets to understand on a kind of abstract level, on a soulful level, what he's made. And the music kind of is there in place of all this other stuff that's been concretized over the process of writing it. There's a story that's functioning. There's characters that need to do certain things and proceed through. But when it comes to the music, it's about something else. And it's a very important connection for him. And it's an important phase of making the film for him.
Well, he described it as a second screenplay.
Yeah.
The second, if there's really two parts of filmmaking, and the first part is everything that we know as filmmaking, basically.
Yes.
And the second part is what you do, basically, at the very tail end to make it something else now.
Yes. It brings it into some kind of fourth dimension, because I think the idea is that the score can kind of almost function in the place of the unconscious, or some kind of intuitive desires that the character has. It can also be the environment that the character traverses. Those are the two things I really believe that a score can kind of be. And when everything kind of locks in place together there, it almost creates like a new dimension that never tells the audience what to feel or what to kind of know, but does sort of provide this kind of allegorical undergirding that has to do with the spirit of any given moment. And each cue for us is like a little art project to get it to the essence of what's happening. And so each one has its own little dimensionality like that. And it's how I think it needs to be a whole, or otherwise it could be incoherent. But we trust that will happen through making good decisions. And then we just go into a cue by cue, treating it like its own little mini world, pocket dimension.
Well, I remember some of that stuff you're describing is you're spelling out what Uncut Gems was for me. And I remember watching that. First off, everyone was like, oh, Adam Sandler, you have to see this movie. And it was my first time seeing a Safdie brothers film. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I went in watching for Adam Sandler, and I came out wondering who scored this film, because I've never felt so stressed out and uncomfortable in a movie before.
Yeah.
And I still remember leaving there and being like, my hands are soaked. And it was, this guy is going through all this stuff, and you musically were able to translate that. Yes, there's visuals on the screen, but it was so heightened. The way it was mixed, the way it was frenetic, that was unlike anything I've ever seen before. When you came on board with that particular film, what was the discussion about how to score that? Because it really was a new way of doing something.
You know what's one of the interesting things is on Good Time, because we didn't really have a roadmap, I think maybe Josh deferred to me more, and that's why it really felt like I could slap Oneohtrix Point Never on the soundtrack. Because in a way I kind of took it upon myself to sort of, like, I'm navigating Connie through this situation like I'm navigating Howard and Marty, but Connie is in a neon-soaked world, and that was the only objective there. But Howard and his world is there's a lot going on. And one of the things that sort of gave us the liberty to jump around, well, there's these weird mellotron flutes here, and then we're homaging, like Japanese soundtracks and scores we like in other moments, and doing so many, and there's a kind of a cosmic new age aspect to it, and there's lots of different things. Was actually the Punch Drunk Love score and the soundtrack, because I was kind of like, is it okay to jump around as much as we're jumping around? And he was like, yeah, check this out. I mean, at the time we were like obsessively going into PTA. And he was like, there's no rules on this thing. Why would we? So I think unlocking that, where it's just like, wait, who says that we're really supposed to, have this kind of coherency across the whole thing? It's not an orchestral score. It's whatever we want it to be. Yeah. And I think that carried its way into Marty as well, where we're like, so what? It takes place in 1952. This is our movie. Like, we'll do whatever we want. So I don't know. Having that kind of freedom, it's a big swing, but when you have your reasons and you really believe in the thing, and when it's rooted in like a kind of in the essence of the character, and it doesn't matter what tool you reach for, because you know what you're trying to convey, and that trust will see you through. It's going to be good because we mean it, and it's at that point that becomes more important to me than, say, doing the right thing. It's like doing the imaginative thing or the interesting thing is, to me, more my bag.
Yeah, and it feels more authentic. That's the authentic approach, instead of here's the lane I need to stay within.
And if I could do things that way, I would have a different opinion of it. I'd certainly respect it quite a bit, and I tried to, via osmosis, study a lot of that stuff. But at the end of the day, I would say in the Venn diagram of Josh and I, there's a kind of a rebelliousness at the center of.
You definitely picked that up in the final films too. Like, there's breaking rules feel that comes through musically and also in the
we
story.
can't help it.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Marty Mauser. It's like, it's not an ill-intentioned thing. It's just like, we can't help but just be who we are, for better or worse. Sometimes it works out pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't, but we just have to adhere to some idea of personal integrity.
I do want to get to Marty, but I want to ask you a little bit about the Weeknd and working with him. There seems like there's always a connective tissue. He was in Uncut Gems. Is that where you guys first connected, or when did you start?
Did you meet through that film, or because of that film?
We met through Good Time.
Okay.
Oh, through Good Time. Okay.
He saw Good Time, and he loved Good. He was obsessed with Good Time, and basically didn't connect the dot. He was like, oh wait, Oneohtrix Point Never. How do I know that? And I think he had a kind of vague idea of who I was, because we were both kind of reluctantly entering the fray of culture through Pitchfork at around the same time.
He was the mixtape master at that time, right?
Yes, so. And it was, he had remembered something about me, like through Pitchfork. It was so funny, and then we started sharing music and talking, sharing ideas, and he was like, yeah, like you write like some sad stuff. Like, I like this. He's like, we had a real kind of connection over the sort of melancholy in our music, respectively. And we just went from there.
I have a personal connection with the latest album, because my wife and I were at the show that he lost his voice.
Oh my God, really?
It's her favorite artist. We listen to him all the time, and we got tickets and we went, and 2 songs in. Were you at the show?
No.
Everyone in the audience was crushed, but I had so much respect for him to come out on stage and tell everyone, rather than just like lip sync to a track.
But I can't give you the concert that I want to give you right now. But I wanted to come out and personally apologize and not tweet it or Instagram it or whatever. I want you guys to know that I can't give you what I want to give you right now. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I love you guys so much.
But I know that the new album was supremely inspired by that moment.
Yeah, and the film sort of depicts it in a way and turns it into this crazy rock opera.
Was working on that album different because of, I mean, he said he had a breakdown and had to come back into it, but I'm wondering like how that was different writing that album with him.
The Hurry Up Tomorrow process
versus the other two.
Well, it was amazing because Dawn FM actually weirdly dates back to the After Hours album, because I was basically in and around the studio while they were finishing After Hours, and I got to sort of jump in on a few tracks on After Hours, but I was there basically in an experimental mode, just writing. And Illangelo was on one side of the studio, and I was on the other. I was writing new stuff, and Illangelo was wrapping up After Hours. And that was just incredible. And so I got a real sense of where he was going, which was he really saw an opportunity to make his records feel almost more akin to a film than an album. Now, I'm not saying they are like a soundtrack to a film. I'm saying they are a film. You can kind of go into this extremely imaginal headspace, close your eyes, and you're in a kind of abstraction of Abel's idea of a film. And we doubled down on that on Dawn FM. Hurry Up Tomorrow, I was like just there basically in service of the project. Like I had gone off to do other things and gotten invited back into the fold late into the Hurry Up Tomorrow process, primarily to work on the film version. But once I got involved in the film version, it gave him ideas for the album. So now we're changing the album. There's a version of the album that's kind of already out or getting pressed up on vinyl, but he's like, so what? We'll just make it better.
Make another one.
Yeah. So we're iteratively like changing Hurry Up Tomorrow, and then it's like this. It's like feeding into the film. It's feeding back into the album. It was crazy, And it was really, really, I mean, I really do think of him as a kind of a pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many comparisons with him to Michael Jackson with the sound, but also like when the creative direction. I mean, with the concerts and the costumes and there's so much more to what he's doing. There's such a bigger picture than just making an album, and there's not many artists like that.
If you dip into the world of like Weeknd fanhood, which I don't recommend everyone do, but if you go there, you see what's going on, which is like a real deep engagement with the sort of layers of meaning and hidden messages and ideas in the lyrics that you could just stop at the level of great song, very catchy, very nice, but there's always this kind of world building and looping back and referring to other things in this continued sort of abstract narrative that he's drawing. And I think the more time passes and people can sit with the trilogy and see all those little things and how they connect, the more they'll understand it's a body of work.
Do you plan to work with him on another album?
I certainly would be very happy to. Yeah, he's the best. It just really, I'm always kind of, I never want to push anyone in any direction. I always want to try to suss out like where their artistic libido is driving them, and then see if I can help. Because as a producer, I'm just trying to be in a helpful kind of mode of operation. Or a lot of the time, I do just send him music or chop it up or loop music just for fun to just try to get the juices flowing. So we never stop.
Well, please make more because it's great. But let's get to Marty Supreme. I know Josh said that it took about 6 years to write this film after his wife read a book about someone it was loosely based on.
Yes.
Were you aware of this at that time? Did you know anything? Like, when did you start working on the picture?
There was, there was another film that there was potentially a direction that they were going to go in, and then Marty existed like sort of like 2 iterations of movies ago that never happened. Well, Marty was the first idea, then they pivoted to another idea, and then they came back to Marty. I didn't have all the backstory, sort of, basically just as a friend and knowing Josh through the years, I hear about stuff. He's like reading this really weird book about this ping pong hustler guy. It's about as much as I got. It wasn't like I'm so dead set on this story. It was like, I think there might be something here. Then he pivoted away for a while. It was a whole nother thing. Then they had him and Ronnie had a eureka moment and put all the pieces together. Even then, I never expect I'm going to be working on a project until I'm asked to, and I was overjoyed when they did. But yeah, I'm like any other composer. I come in pretty late in the process, but I had read the script early on, and I was ready if called to duty.
Yeah.
Did you have a library of ideas that you had started dabbling in, or did you wait till picture?
I wait till picture because it's one of those things. It's definitely, I might have ideas, but I really want to see the ideas sort of bouncing off of Josh.
Yep.
In the soup, sitting there, listening to music, hanging out. And I can write things, but more often than not, things I write ahead of time, it's just not how he works. Mm-hmm. He really wants me to react to what's there. And I can appreciate that. It makes a lot of sense.
We interview a lot of composers and directors, sometimes at the same time, about their kind of chemistry and how they work together musically. And, a lot of the film score world is much more orchestral, and it's like rooted in a lot of that. So there are stages to things. Sometimes the director's not that involved. There's a rough sketch, and then they go show up and record. And then
that'd be amazing to experience.
But your workflow with Josh is very different, and it seems like it's very hands-on. Can you kind of describe what that looks like?
By the way, his name's in the credits as part of the music team. So Elaborate.
I slipped it in there. He didn't want it. I also gave him producer credit on Uncut Gems. Like, he was basically the Rick Rubin of the Uncut Gems score. I mean, what it's like is that he's in the studio. He's wildly gesticulating and showing me where he wants things. He's like a conductor. And he's so brave, because not everybody wants to embarrass themselves that way. And music is this kind of touchy thing. Like, if you have to start belting out loud and you can't sing or whatever, but he's just so obsessed. And he has the image of music in his mind. And so he's going to show you actually with his body. So a lot of the time I'm just kind of turning around and like, what's he doing with his body? Like, where's the beat? What does he want to show me? And a lot of it is also a tendency I have to kind of be a little bit more in my shell and be a little bit more introverted. And he's very extroverted, and he's energy and rhythm, and I'm melody and so we're in this dance together where he's trying to get me out of my shell, and I'm always trying to kind of smooth things out and make things kind of more beautiful than maybe, and it's this beautiful dance, and you can actually hear that in a lot of what's going on. But
well, the term that I saw in the credits, and I've heard you mention it before, I haven't heard it anywhere else, so I'm not sure where the term snakebite comes from. Is that your own
That's
invention?
Josh, 100%.
Okay.
That's like he wants...
What is that? Explain what a snake bite
He
means.
wants more volume or velocity or one or the other or both from a transient pluck. He wants something to come in and cut through everything like a knife, like bite. He wants the audience to get bitten by a sound. And so, more snake bite, or, he might just acknowledge that I did snake. He might just, snake bite? You want a snake bite there? And I'm like, yeah, I want it there. He's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that.
So it's like it's a sync point. It's a point of emphasis.
Yeah.
Okay. It's cool. It's like it's a different mode of, because that's not the vocabulary that we come across.
Did we talk about snake biting?
You've mentioned it in a couple interviews in the past.
But we saw it in the credits.
It's in the credits also.
Oh,
it's listed as snake bites.
That's right. I forgot.
And we were like,
so now it's official.
So I think we looked it up.
Now
right
it's a
after.
thing.
I love that.
The score itself, it's so fun. The film takes place in the 50s. You have an 80s sound. There's 80s needle drops, but then there's some orchestral mashup with some sort of synthy sounds. At one point, too, by the way, Kevin O'Leary stealing the show in the film, which is amazing.
He's amazing.
But right after he mentioned the word Dracula, I'm hearing like church organ kind of gothic sounds.
I mean, you caught that.
Did that pop into your head immediately when you saw that script?
That particular scene, essentially Marty's on his way to Kay's after party. She's performed her first night of the play, and he's, basically just sneaking in there to hopefully get something from Kay. And there's this sort of expository moment where he's outside, he's looking at this like really nice building, and there's different kind of modalities of wealth and poverty in the movie. And I thought it was funny to think of Kevin's character as like Dracula. He later says in the film that he's a vampire.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was, yeah.
And so we kind of worked backwards, and we were like, oh, this would be interesting. So we call that cue Vampire's Castle. And it's like, yeah, he's entering a spooky place, and it's not really his place. And it was just a fun, playful way to get into the sort of atmosphere of that scene. Yeah,
that's perfect. Timothee Chalamet in this film, which by the way, he's a credited producer on the film as well. He reminded me a lot of Vince Vaughn in Swingers.
I love Swingers.
Like nothing's a bad idea.
Another
Everyone
tape
is
I own,
your money. Like don't worry about it.
That's interesting.
No dream is too crazy to dream up. I know he just came off of a musical film. Did you work with him at all with the score?
That's funny because years ago, I met up with him, or I didn't meet up with him. He was at an event, and he goes up to me. And he's like, he's still a young kid, but he was even younger then. He goes up to me, Opien, you're a musician. What do you know about guitars? I'm working on this thing. I can't really tell you. I'm going to be Bob Dylan. So he blows it right away. He's so excited. He was just so thrilled to get into the character and do the research. But he asked me if I could basically tell him a little bit about guitar. I was like, wrong guy. But he managed to he is Marty Mauser in some way. He like manages to find my studio. I'm on tour and I get a text message from my engineer. He's like, Timmy's here. I'm like, why is Timmy in my studio? He's like, I don't know. He's here. He's drinking beer. He's drinking Red Stripes. I'm like, this guy is a genius of life. He just kind of traverses the maze of life and does it with aplomb. But yeah, that was my first sort of exposure to him, and that was a long time before there was any discussion that they would be working together. But
while we're on the subject, I just have to ask you about this. Perhaps you've seen the rumor, but there's a rumor that Timothee Chalamet is a British rapper named EsDeeKid.
I briefly saw this on Twitter.
Your fans have lost their minds and they are saying that you are EsDeeKid.
Is that true?
I got no comment on that.
Oh, come on.
No, I
What
mean,
did you-
got no comment.
You've got the same eyes.
I've got 2 words on that.
Go on.
All will be revealed in due time.
You would know.
Do
You'd
you
be the
think
man.
he's capable of being this person? Do you know if he's this person?
He's a proficient performer of many sorts. I think he could probably pull it off. Is it him? I don't know. If I get a chance to ask him, I'll report back.
Okay. You want to get to 3 things?
Yeah. So 3 things, and you actually, we will usually just ask for some quick answers on each of the 3 things. But you mentioned something earlier about hidden messages in some of the Weeknd's music, and it got me thinking. Just in this conversation, you probably, you got a good sense of humor, bury some interesting stuff, some little Easter eggs in a lot of your music, and I'm curious if you have any one of those that's your
care to
favorite.
reveal?
Yeah, maybe it can be revealed already, but it's something
Okay.
that...
I won't give away
favorite.
2. I'll give you one from OPN and one from Marty.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Garden of Delete. I'm not going to say which track, but I am going to say that a food reviewer was sampled. A food reviewer from YouTube was sampled. This is 2015. And who knows if this dude's around? I have no idea. There's a food reviewer was sampled on Garden of Delete, and I will not reveal which track or who the person was. That's one. Marty has a really interesting one. So Josh and I are in the studio and we're just messing around, and there's always like the special effects bank on a shitty old keyboard with a bunch of Foley and crap like that. And Josh loves Tangerine Dream, and he loves Risky Business, and I'm just messing with it, and there's a sound. It's just called like train engine or something like that. I don't know. And so I just turn around and I'm like, hey Josh, check out this real train. Love on a real train. So he was like, we got to use that. It's like, what do you mean? He goes, it's a real train. Let's find a cue where there's a love scene and use the real train. So somewhere in Marty Supreme in your score, there is an actual train Foley not linked to anything diegetic. There is no train in New York passing through. It's essentially there for
Amusement.
for
the creator's amusement.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A dream collaboration for you.
Wow.
Whether it could be a director or an artist.
Oh man.
Feels like you could pick up the phone now and
Call anybody?
pretty much call somebody. So
I think I have such a affinity for I wanted to make films. I wanted to write movies. I wanted to direct them. That was where it all started for me. So I think on some level it could be fun or interesting on some level to call up a director and say, hey, can I just be in your movie? Like I kind of just want to have a cameo in a movie. I want to be on screen.
I mean, Benny's in all his movies.
Yes. Right? I would maybe Benny would have me in the Crazy Lizard movie. Maybe something sort of bizarre like that. Or I don't know. I would love to just like sit down and rack a real composer's brains. And what I mean by real is just somebody with a high level of musical competency. I met Carter Burwell a couple nights ago, and we were talking about it earlier as one of my heroes. But I love his music, and I would love to sit down with another composer and just see where it yields without the pressure of a project or a score. I'd love to just make music with another composer. That would be so much fun. That's just what comes to mind.
We're doing this a little bit backwards, so that's kind of more of a future question, but a backwards history question for you. Is a pivotal person who has fueled your musical passion, musical career? I'm sure there's 100, probably hundreds of them, but who's somebody that's had an inordinate impression on your musical development?
Wow. Sakamoto comes to mind right away, on so many different levels. I was lucky enough to meet him, and we had like a very special kind of pen pal relationship. We would just email back and forth. I'd listen to some record of his and shoot him a line and say, "What were you thinking when?" The answer was always, "There was a new keyboard on the market, and I and I bought it." But he was so, in that way, just so charming and honest and straight up with me about everything, and it kind of I miss him. And his music meant a lot to me, but also the way he sort of conducted himself in his career and was able to reinvent himself, explore different mediums, and do everything with integrity, really taught me quite a bit. I would also say Daft Punk, because
Sure. Yep.
it was a similar thing of like everything these guys are doing has been meticulously considered, and there's a gratuitous love of music within their music. There's a kind of a let me show you how much we love music kind of thing that attracted me a lot. Like, it was the same reason I loved Tarantino when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. It was like, that's how to love something. That's how to be obsessed with something. So much that you can't help but sort of fold it all into your work. Mm-hmm. It always spoke to me.
The ways you guys are making films is pretty similar to that, I would say.
I think so. I think it's because that's sort of the primordial ooze that we came from, was artists like that.
Final question for you. Now that this film is out, I know these processes, I mean, I haven't made a feature narrative film, but we've gone through the process of making something where you dedicate so much time and energy and vulnerability and all these things. But now that the film is out, how do you feel?
Proud. It's such an intense process, and you don't even really know. You barely can come up for air, and you don't really know what you've made. And then you're like, we're mixing the record at Ladyland and bringing it over to Skip at Warner's to do sound mix, and then a week later it's at Alice Tully Hall in New York City, but at a screening at the New York Film Festival. There was no time to consider anything, no less like, hey, is this good or something? And when you actually have a second to sit in the audience filled with people, and you're dwarfed by the image on screen, and the laughs start coming in, and people are starting to pick up on it. It's a comedy. It's an adventure. It's this, it's that. And the joy and the exuberance that you feel coming off of other people as they absorb the thing and go on the trip for the first time, you feel pride. And that's been, I'm really, really, through this process, doing interviews and talking about it, and I never feel exhausted by it, because I really love this movie.
Yep.
And that is that's pride, and I know it's one of the 7 deadly sins apparently, but I feel it.
That's what you're working for, is something you can be proud of, that you've gone there and come back with something. And I mean, audiences are going to love this film because it's such a, I mean, musically, it's just, I got to say, like, we watch a lot of films, but musically, it's like the most present I've ever heard music in a film.
Thank you.
And it really just, I mean, it hits you.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic.
It's a movie with a lot of heart, actually, and I can't ask for more.
And it's fun.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fun and it's original.
You
which
said
is
when the
always
audience
good.
laughs. That is like I remember the first point of relief when we made a documentary was just we get a little chuckle and we're like, okay, everyone's
Yes.
along for the ride. You know?
Yeah,
even-
and then you got them. It's like you're sending out the reel
Yeah.
into the water, and are we gonna get is there a little tickle? Is there anything? What's going on? And yeah, it's amazing when that scene early in the film when Marty's showing the ball,
Yeah.
he's moving back and forth, and you realize like that there's a kind of a lighthearted aspect to it's an adventure. I always say the only thing that's missing from Marty Supreme is the map with the red dots where you're seeing what country he's going from.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's an aspect of Marty Supreme that's basically like some Indiana Jones kind of stuff
Yeah.
going on. And they're fun. It's a romp.
Yep.
Anything you're working on that you want to share with the audience moving forward?
I'm working on not working is how it's gonna be the big goal next year.
You've earned a
It's-
break.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Just something. And just, take a walk.
It's all when you're deep into something, you're thinking like, oh, when I get done, I'm gonna relax, and then you have a few weeks, and then you're like, man, I miss being busy.
Yeah.
At least that's how I am. I don't know if that's your brain.
Yeah. I'm a workaholic.
Awesome. Well, again, go see the film. It's out now. The score is out now. Daniel Lopatin. So glad to finally have you on the show
Likewise.
in person. Thanks
Love
to
the pod, love the
A24,
program.
Rachel, and all the folks at A24 for setting up the space for us here. And it was great to watch the film with you guys last night.
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
again.
For more, including bonus footage from Inside Composer Studios, follow Score, the podcast, on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and X.
This season of Score the Podcast is presented by Vienna Symphonic Library, used by many of the composers featured right here on the show.
If you're looking for high-quality, sample-based virtual instruments to elevate your craft or unlock the creative potential of your music, Vienna Symphonic Library has the tools you need all in one place with the Synchron series.
Recorded on Stage A of the Vienna Synchron stage, the Synchron series features every orchestral instrument, pianos, choir, so much more, while innovating to create an intuitive, fully customizable software suite that puts you in control of everything you create.
These are real instruments recorded and engineered by the same people recording scores for some of your favorite films and TV shows: Netflix, Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Amazon, HBO, so many more.
And with their flagship Synchron duality strings, you get both the large ensemble on Stage A and the small ensemble on the drier Stage B, performing simultaneously so you can blend to create your very own unique sound. Our listeners are using it. Our guests on the show are using it. Matt and I are even using it.
We're using it too. The best of Vienna, the city of music, at your fingertips.
And if you want to hear what VSL can do for you, listen after this message for a demo cue from their Synchron Duality Strings ostinato package we mentioned at the beginning of the show. It's like you're recording right there in Vienna. Or you can check out the items yourself at vsl.co.at, check out their sample player, free libraries and demos, and you can play around with all that stuff right now today.
From all of us, thank you to the awesome team at Vienna Symphonic Library and Vienna Synchron Stage for supporting this season of Score the Podcast.